Hello and welcome to this new unit on harmony. This is going to be our main focus for the rest of the distance learning portion of this school year because this is such a huge part of music. If you think about how many times you've heard music that is just one single melodic line with no accompaniment, I bet you can't really think of anything, right? All music, for the most part, has some sort of harmony, and if it doesn't have harmony being heard, there is at least some harmony being implied. So it's going to be very important to understand harmony, and that's why I really feel that everything we've done before this is leading toward this very important part of music theory. So as we move ahead, for today, this is what we're going to be looking at, our day one. This is really just a lot of review of what we've done before, the definitions that you've heard a million times, reviewing Roman numerals and inversions, reviewing chord tones, what are chord tones, and reviewing identifying notated intervals. That means reviewing and identifying notated intervals. So, melody versus harmony. Melody is a sequence of notes that sounds musically satisfying. Harmony is the simultaneous soundings of notes to create chords. So the big thing here is that melody is just one sound, whereas harmony is two or more sounds coming together to create beautiful music. And here's an interesting a note right down here. When adding a harmony part, you are adding notes to reflect the chord progression. So it's important to know how the melody is relating to the chord, which means it's important to know how to analyze a piece of music. So for the homework after this lesson, that's going to be a big part of it, is just reviewing our Roman numeral analysis. And to do that, you got to know your inversions. So to review root position, that's just where the root of the chord is in the bass. So if you look over on the right here, you have a C major chord in bass clef, C, E, G, and C is in the bass. So this is a root position chord. The abbreviation or the hidden name would be 5-3 because we have the fifth and the third. However, it's hidden because that's just assumed. You've seen this slide before. I took it from one of the other PowerPoints, so should be very familiar to you. Moving along, your first inversion. Now, with this one, the third of the chord is in the bass. So here's that same C major chord. However, the C is up here, and now the third is in the bass. Now, I will say, the C does not have to be in the top voice or the soprano voice for this to be a first inversion chord. What's important is that this third is in the bass, which it is. So first inversion. And this is abbreviated with a 6-3. However, the 3 is assumed. So you just call it a 1-6, a major 1-6. And also, keep in mind that this doesn't necessarily have to be a 1. If we're in the key of C major, which as you can see by this key signature here, or I guess it would be right here, we are in the key of C major. However, if we were in, let's say, the key of F, this would actually be a 5-6. Because in the key of F, the fifth note, F, G, A, B flat, C, that's note number 5. Hopefully it's all coming back to you after the break now, how we do theory. But as a reminder, this is your first inversion triad. I put a 1 here because we're in C major. However, we could be in the key of F, in which case this up here would mean that this is actually a 5 chord. Just something to be thinking about. The big takeaway, though, is that this is what a first inversion chord is. The third is in the bass. And finally, second inversion. The root was in the bass the first time. Third was in the bass the second time. For second inversion, the fifth is in the bass. And because we can't really assume anything from this new abbreviation, we have to just call it 6-4 because you've got a sixth between the root or the bass note and the soprano note, the top note, and you've got a fourth between the bass note and the next note right here, the middle note. So here's your second inversion. If we're in the key of C major like we were last time, this is a 1-6-4 chord. So some examples of this. Let's start with C major. We're in the key of C major and I want to see a 4 chord. Well, a 4 chord, and in first inversion, we'll start with. So a 4 chord in the key of C major, you've got C, D, E, and then F. This is an F chord. So in first inversion, nice and simple, F, A, and then a C. If I wanted to make this be in first inversion, put a little 6 here, A, C, F. However, I could also do something like this, A, F, A, C. It's a different way to do it. However, because right down here we have the third in the bass, this is still a first inversion chord. And then you know the rest. If we were to do this in second inversion, 4, 6-4 would be the kind of abbreviation for that. And my fifth is now in the bass. Remember though, music does not just exist in major keys, it also exists in minor keys. So take a look right here. I'm going to do this one in bass clef. Let's see how I do drawing these flats. Not too bad, not too bad. I'm going to count to 5. Think about what minor key that would be with 4 flats. Got it? It is F minor, because the major would be A flat major. The relative to A flat, think down 2 notes, A flat, G, F, F minor. So let's talk one chord in F minor. Nice and simple, it's a 1 chord. It's an F minor chord. So F, A, C. We don't need any accidentals here because we already have our A flat. That would make this minor right down here. So there it is, nice and simple. Let's make this now a first inversion chord. F, A, C, F. There we go. The third is in the bass, so it's first inversion. Now let's make this, oop, that's a 2. I wanted to do a 1. Let me erase that. Let's make this 6-4 now. Nice and simple. Boom, boom, boom. Again, now the fifth, this C, is in the bass, so this is a second inversion chord. Very good, very good. So last thing I want to talk through right now is deciphering intervals, something from Music Theory 1 I just want to remind you of. Nice and simple, if you're in the key of whatever the first note is, whatever the bottom note is, I should say, you just count up to whatever note you're talking about. Let's talk perfect fifth. Here's 1, there'd be another note here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because that is 5, this is a perfect fifth. Nice and simple. Here's where it gets complicated. I know this looks very, very, very confusing. Don't be too concerned with that though. If you want to look at it, you can. Just follow this process that I'm going to say right now. Imagine you are in the key of the bottom notes. Imagine you are in the key of the bottom notes. Let's see right here. We are in the key of G. Ask yourself if the top note is in the key of the bottom note. In G major, is there a C? Well, yes, there is a C. Now ask yourself, is it supposed to be sharp? Is it supposed to be flat? Is it supposed to be natural? If the note that you see fits in the key, then it is major. If the note that you see has to be changed in some way, whether added a sharp or a flat to it to be in the key, then your interval is either minor or it is a tritone. Nice and simple, nice and quick. The same principle from here applies, from the previous slide applies, where you count up. However, you don't need to freak out too much beyond that. Just ask yourself, is it in the key of the bottom note? This is why knowing keys is very important. And aside from that, that's really all I've got for today. Here's your homework. You're just going to be reading pages 71 to 78 in tonal harmony. Pay attention to the section that's talking about closed and opened voicings. And then you need to complete self-test 5-2 on page 77, only examples A and C. So here's of what that looks like, and I just want to go over a couple of things that might be a little bit strange when you're here. First things first, pay attention to what you've got. Here's section A, here's section C. Pay attention to the capitalization of these letters right here. These are telling you the key that you're in. Yes, I know, 2 flats is the key of B flat major, but it's actually, we're in G minor. So you got to make sure you're paying attention to the notes or the capitalizations right around here, connecting to your key signatures. Next thing, if you read the directions, you'll see them say that this 8th note, because it's in the parentheses, isn't to be considered with this chord. However, over here, it's a little bit weird because you do have an 8th note again. If you look at how I just circled that, that's how I want you to think about it. You don't really need to add this G in. You can think about it just as it is with what is hitting on beat 3. Don't worry about the and of 3, the day of 3. Just think of beat 3. Aside from that, you should be in pretty good shape with this example. Moving down to letter C, section C, you need to fill in the circled missing inner voices. So in the case of 1 through 4 here, you need to just add one note that will be called the alto part. So you have a soprano part here, you have a bass part here. You have to add a note that is going to make this, for example, a 1 chord. So we have a G here, you have a B here. The note to add would be G, B, D. You'd have to add D to there to make that a 1. As you move down along, pay attention to your capitalizations here, right? Once you get down to this section though, you now have to add in 2 voices. This can be a little bit confusing because there's only 3 notes on a triad, right? A simple solution to that, all you've got to do is double the root. So, and this makes it very easy because these are all in root position. So here is a 6 chord, there's D, that's all correct. So we need D, F, and A. D, D, oh, well that's nice, they've already got it there for us. So we just have to add in an F, and then an A. Oop, this was not an F, my apologies. Let me erase that. And then I'll add in an F right here, and an A right there. If you answer all of these the way that I'm answering these, then you'll have no trouble with this homework. So if you have any questions, please email me at aschmidt@montvilleschools.org. If it's after about 5 o'clock, if it's before 5 o'clock, you can just make a comment on this assignment and I should be able to get back to you before the end of the day. Other than that, best of luck with the homework and have a great rest of the day.